What's going on, everybody? David Feldman-Makrias back at it again. And we're going to talk about exactly how not to set up a Google Ads campaign in today's video. So the precipice of making this video was because there's so many different updates inside the way you can make a Google Ads campaign that it's worth noting that a lot of the buttons and features that Google wants you to check or install or activate during your campaign build may actually hinder performance. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an example client and we're going to take an example local business, one of my favorites, car dealership, and we're going to apply the what not to do in real time. So let's do it right now. So let's say we're going to take a client that I do not handle. Let's do Miami Nissan. Looks like an AutoNation store. So we're going to apply AutoNation Nissan Miami. We're going to pretend that we actually do the marketing for this store. So when I go back here, forget this other search campaign. This is going to be paused. And then I'm going to go to the campaigns dashboard. This is in the newer interface. June, July, it's mandatory switchover. So you can either go up here or you can go up here. I like going into campaigns and then clicking the blue plus to create a campaign. So then we're going to go to new campaigns. None of your ads are running. Yes, we know this. This is a practice account. So, all right, first it tells us what's your campaign objective. Well, what are we trying to do with Nissan of Miami as a car dealer? We're trying to drive either leads or website traffic. Now, that's what we're trying to do. Now, the problem, though, is if I select a specific objective, it's going to narrow down the different types of options that I have to create an actual campaign. But for now, I'm going to select the leads objective. And if there's something not right in there, then I might back out and create a campaign without goals guidance. Now, if you create a campaign without goals guidance, that's more of an expert move to do, an advanced move to do. But note that you can always come back in and select an objective. It just may change the campaign configuration that you already started with. So for all intents and purposes, more for the basic understanding, let's select leads. So I'm going to select leads, and it says use these conversion goals to improve leads. Conversion goals labeled as account default will use data from all of your campaigns to improve your bid strategy and campaign performance, even if they don't seem directly related to leads. So this is a practice account. I don't really have conversions set up appropriately, but one conversion that I have here is page views. Normally, we wouldn't want to have this as a conversion. Why? Well, let's go back to AutoNation Nissan. So if I go here, what would be an example of a conversion that we would want to get to AutoNation Nissan? Well, the first thing that I see on the homepage right away, I see this text and chat button. And usually when someone clicks this, that's opening up a chat. So that may be a conversion that we want to count, but it may not be, depending upon our chat tool. Because our chat tool here, it may pop up automatically, and that count as a conversion when the user didn't do anything. So the next best thing would be enter your phone number, enter your question, and then send message. So if I entered my phone number, and then I said, what is your best special? And then I hit send message, that's going to be the conversion that I want to count. That's one example. Another example would be if I look at this on mobile. Looks like a non-responsive website, unfortunately. When I look at the blah 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 inspect tool on Chrome. So if I go here instead, I'm going to use Blisk for a minute, and then I'm going to look at mobile. I accept. I may want to have call as a conversion. Maybe not this call, but when someone actually dials the number and hits here. It's not going to allow me because I'm from a computer, but that little button right there, that's a click to call for sales. And that would be something that I want to track conversions on. So those are a few examples of what conversions we want to track. We don't necessarily want to track a page view unless it's a thank you page, but thank you pages are not really prevalent in auto dealer marketing. So to go back to Google Ads, we want to make sure that our conversions are tracked and set up correctly, but we can do this later. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to hit continue and move on. But note that we want to have conversions set up later. Okay, select the campaign type. I'm going to select search first. Here's one thing not to do. Google is pushing Performance Max. Performance Max is a campaign that reaches all of Google with a single campaign. Usually when you do that, though, you have to be very, very intentful on what kind of campaign you want to run. For automotive specifically, there are vehicle listing ad campaigns that utilize PMax or Performance Max to run that, but that's more of a sophisticated campaign type. I want to start with the basics. My suggestion is you start with the most low funnel type of campaign first, if you don't have any, and that would be a search campaign. I call it a classic search campaign. And when I look up, if I go back here, this example of an ad, save on a new Nissan, AutoNation Nissan Miami, sponsored AutoNation Nissan Miami. This is a branding campaign or name campaign. And this is a classic search campaign. You have the blue hyperlink. You have some other, what used to be called extensions, but are now called assets. This is the example that we want to create. So we're going to hit search. Select the ways you'd like to reach your goal. You could select multiple. So I'm going to hit these 3 website visits, and I'm actually going to go in here, and I don't want all this UTM stuff. And then I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to put the URL in here. I'm going to put my, what's the phone number? Let's use the phone number, 866-340-1630. I don't like that because it's a tracking number. It's not a local number, but we're going to use it for this instance. I bet you if I go backwards, this is a local number, I think. I'm not familiar with Miami. So I'm going to put this in here. That's the local number. I do want to check off store visits, even though I've made videos that store visits don't reliably track. But I want to check it off for now because I'm going to disable it later. Lead form submissions. And then I'm going to put campaign name as AN, which is AutoNation. And then we'll do a brand. So that kind of tells me exactly what I'm doing. Not a whole lot that I haven't said stay away from. Okay, but now we're going to get into that. So what do you want to focus on? A couple different things. So Google wants to funnel you, okay? Google wants to funnel you. Most of the time, it's going to say conversions, right? Especially if it's a lead generation. I want leads. I want to get conversions. And you'd be right, but we have to set up conversion tracking. And there's other things that you can do if you don't have any conversion data inside your account to actually help your account get more exposure before actually just isolating on conversions. Because Google, it may want to do when you hit conversions is only find you conversions. It'll find you the lowest hanging fruit, but it won't necessarily drive the quality of traffic and the type of campaign activity that you may want to see. So if you hit conversions, it might just get lead forms or lead submissions that won't mean as much as if we started a different way. But that's more strategy. So I'm actually gonna have clicks here, okay? Especially if I have no conversion data. I can set a bid limit which is going to give me a maximum CPC bid limit. This would be, doing some research on the keywords to find out exactly what your bid limit should be. But for right now, I'm going to put $5. And then it says bid for new customers only. Anytime that I have used this, it's actually cut my campaign's reach in half or more, meaning it reduces the reach by 50% because it's trying to go after an existing audience. Plus, if you're not feeding Google with the right intelligence about who your customers are, or like in this example, you don't have a lot of data because you're creating a new campaign, selecting this will not benefit you. So I would stay away from selecting that checkbox, at least in your first campaign. Now, I always say test everything and test often. So if you have an account that's multiple years old with a lot of conversion data and a lot of history, then you could create an entirely new campaign to test for bid for new customers only and test it yourself. But I would not put that into your already existing campaign. I'd run an A/B test. So that way you could actually verify some of the results that I'm talking about. So in most cases, you're going to stay away from this. All right, this is big. So now it tells you to reach the right people, start by defining key settings for your campaign. So now it automatically checks the box search network, which is ads can appear near Google search results and the other Google sites when people search for terms that are relevant to your keywords, include Google search partners. And then it says display network, easy way to get additional conversions at similar or lower cost of search with unused search budget, include Google display network. I never check these when creating a campaign from scratch, especially a search campaign, which is what we're doing. The reason why is because these two checkboxes are going to extend your reach. But if you have a limited budget, which every business that I work with does, you're going to dilute your budget. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend to not check these boxes. You can, at a later point in time, test the Google search partners. So like for a name campaign, when you have really, really high intent, like if I'm doing keywords such as Nissan Miami or Miami Nissan or AutoNation Nissan, when I have really, really high intent keywords like that, I will experiment with including search partners because I'm not necessarily worried with reaching more people because I want to reach as many people as I can because those keywords will bring in the type of search that I want. I'm very, very intentful with who I want to get. When we have things that are more general, like new Nissan, you will unmistakably reach a lot of other people that you may not necessarily want to, and your keyword is too generalized. So there are instances where Google search partners, like for a name campaign, is important, but or is relevant to apply, but in most instances, I do not. The display network, I never do because including the display network in a search campaign will just really diminish your reach and your budget. It'll dilute the effectiveness of the campaign. And if you really want to get on display, you should just make an entire campaign that is display, not to include it for search and display. I'm going to repeat that again. If you want to reach the display network, make it its own campaign. Do not include it with a search campaign. You will not get effective results. Okay, moving on. This says use display expansion, show your ads in more places and get more conversions. See, look at all of Google's language here, and it's just like pushing you to want to do that. Don't do it. It's not worth it. All right, then I get into location. So if I were going here, I go Miami Nissan. I'd look at the zip code, which is here, and maybe starting out, I'm going to go under enter another location. I always do advanced search. I'm going to do a radius. I typically do a major metro. I can even type in the zip code here. I'll do a 15-mile radius around a major metro or AutoNation Nissan Miami. So it actually gives me the store here. Notice I'm a little bit in the ocean. I can drag and move this pin. I can go into pin mode and do something different if I wanted to. Not going to, but that's how I'd usually start. So we're going to save that. Now, something that's hidden. This is something not to do. Location options. This isn't expanded. Google doesn't want you to see this right away, right? All this other stuff. Oh my gosh, here, check this out. Spend more money here. Reach more people here, blah, 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 blah. Right? But it nests location options. When I open up location options, I've made many videos on this. It gives you a couple different options. Presence or interest. Target people in regularly in or have shown interest in your targeted locations. Recommended. Versus presence. People in or regularly in your targeted locations. What does that mean? If I go back to my advanced search, I might have somebody up here in Pompano Beach. If they're driving here and they drive through my targeting one day because they're taking a road trip down to, I don't know, Route 1 in Key Largo, I might serve an ad to them. Okay? Even if they just drove through my area for one day, I could show an ad to them for multiple days on end. We may not want to do that. We may typically, especially when we have budget limitations, which every single client that I've ever dealt with does, we can't spend infinite money. We're going to target people that reside and are present in this area predominantly. If we start targeting everybody that goes through this bubble, I mean, if we're targeting especially near an airport, an international airport, or in that vicinity, you're going to get a lot of targeting for people that you may not want to be in, because you might have people coming from Cuba, stopping in Miami International, and then going somewhere else. They never have interest or really in Miami that often, and then we show an ad to them for the next 7 days, 14 days, what have you. We don't want to do that. So that's why I'd recommend to always start with presence, people in or regularly in your targeted locations. Again, any toggle you can test, guys, but this is how I'd start off initially. Languages, English, audience segments. Again, we're going to use keywords predominantly, so that's how we're going to reach our people. I don't really care what audience they're in, at least in this example, as long as we have the right keywords that they're going to be typing in. That's what we want to look for. Okay, broad match keywords. This is more new. Broad match keywords work with smart bidding to help you reach your campaign goals. Using broad match keywords for your entire campaign ensures consistency and provides access to additional settings such as brand inclusions. So on, use broad match keywords for your entire campaign. Off, use keyword match types. Yeah, this is the best way to do it. Still, match types are becoming more irrelevant as Google's broadimation is brought forward, but we still want to use match types. There is more settings. I typically leave these alone. Ad rotation, we're going to optimize prefer for best performing ads. Start and end dates, we're not going to have an end date. Ad schedule, at first we're going to have all day. Campaign URL options, we do campaign UTMs outside of Google's platform or Google Ads platform. And I'm not doing anything right now with a restriction or exclusions of brand. So that could be if I want to isolate my competitors out. So next, keyword and asset generation. It's got the URL. What makes your products or service unique? We sell new Nissans. We sell certified Nissans. We sell used Nissans. We offer a money-back guarantee. I don't know. I'm making that up. That's probably not true. Let's see. About us. Well, instead of money-back guarantee, we say we speak Spanish. We offer Nissan service. We offer Nissan parts. So that's a good list overall. So then it's going to generate some ideas. But here's another thing not to do. I don't use Google's generated ideas without vetting them. Okay? Again, I don't use Google's generated ideas without vetting them. Here's our keywords, arguably one of the most important things on any campaign or in any real search marketing, which search marketing arguably is one of the predominant large spends in digital marketing today. So arguably this little window that we're looking at is really, really important. So let's look at it. What did it come up with? Nissan Dealer Miami, Nissan Dealer, Nissan Used Cars, Nissan Dealerships Near Me, Nissan Cars for Sale, Used Nissan, Used Cars Miami, Nissan Cars, Used Cars Florida, Nissan Repair. They all seem like pretty good keywords, right? Well, they are, but not all together. Let me explain. When you create a campaign, you want it to be really focused. You want it to be isolated on a specific type of audience because you're going to have keywords to that audience. You're going to have an ad to that audience, which we're going to go over in a minute. And then you're going to have a very specific cost that is for that audience. So typically what we'll do and that you need to do is segment your keywords appropriately. People interested in, for example, people interested in Nissan Repair aren't necessarily the same people as people interested in used Nissans. Or people interested in Nissan Repair aren't necessarily the same people interested in used cars in Miami. Used cars Miami may be a Ford, maybe a Chevy, maybe whatever used car you have. Not necessarily a Nissan, and nevertheless, not necessarily repair. So you can't just put all your keywords in here, even though Google suggests all these keywords. You have to do more digging. So that's when I would go to the actual site and come up with the strategy. I'm not going to go through strategic input now, but one quick off the cuff way, if you have a website and it's well organized, all of these different guys up here may be considerations for different campaigns that you want to explore with. So for new inventory, new Nissans might be a campaign type that you want to have. So what I would do in here, if that's true, I would go new Nissan. And then I'd start going after the models. New Nissan Altima. New Nissan Rogue. I don't even have to, well, I do want to put new. New Nissan Pathfinder. New Nissan, do they still make they make the Titan. So I would go after that and I'd get rid of all of those, right? Now there's different concatenations that you could do. Maybe it's just a new Titan, new Altima, new Rogue, new Pathfinder. And also, I'm not going to get into this now, but you want to have, these are all broad keywords. Maybe I need to have exact keywords, which are indicated by bracket. Maybe I need to have more phrase match keywords, which are indicated by parentheses. Again, that's part of the keyword strategy. Not going to get into strategy right now, but just general overviews of what to do and what not to do. I didn't fill out this here, enter products or services, because that's just going to give me more suggestions. It is good to use Google's exploration, but I'm not going to do that right now. So cool stuff here. Google does do a nice job here. It'll actually give you different headline and titles. And it gives you little search interests too. So new Nissan Titan. Let's see, new Rogue. Only 590 searches versus new Nissan Rogue 2,900. It's funny, new Titan shows 8,100. That tells me that maybe new Titan isn't a good keyword because the Titan's not a very popular model, and Titan may mean something else to Google searches than the actual car. So I may want to stick with new Nissan Titan. But typically what we do is we'll do new Nissan. Let's say we're doing an ad for the Rogue. You know, lease for $239 per month, only at AutoNation Nissan. Again, I'm not going to get into strategy of creating ads. You have a lot of headline opportunities, 15 to be exact, and you want to make your campaign focus. So if we are advertising new vehicles, we want to make our ads all around those new vehicles. But this is where it gets even more granular, right? If it's a new campaign, I don't want to just necessarily have a new campaign. I want to have a new Titan campaign, or a new Rogue campaign, or a new Pathfinder campaign. I want to be as segmented as possible, but a lot of that depends on how much budget you have, what the model priority is, so on and so forth. But I'm getting more into strategy. What you do want to do, though, when you figure that out, you're going to want to fill out all of these assets as much as you can. There's 15 headlines. There's 4 descriptions. You want to put the business name and logo in here. You're going to want to connect your Google Business Profile if you have it. You're going to want to put as many site links as you can specific to the campaign. You're going to want to put as many call outs that make sense specific to the campaign. And you're going to want to make note if any call outs have to change month to month or season to season. You're going to want to explore more asset types. You're going to want to fill out as much of this as possible. The only one I would stay away from right away is lead forms and apps. Lead forms typically don't drive a huge amount of leads, even though that's what we're going for. I'd save that for a later point. And then apps is not really a target of what we're trying to do. But everything else I'd fill out. URL options, again, I personally build the UTMs outside of Google Ads, but URL options will give you custom parameters for tracking and analytics inside here. So you can do that. You can also test different URLs for mobile, all this different stuff. So this page I would fill out as much as possible. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hit next, and then I'm going to get into budget. What I typically do, let's cancel that. What I typically do, especially when I'm planning a campaign, is I don't set a daily budget right here that's recommended. I'll just put $1 because I want to budget later. It's part of my overall strategy. So I'll just hit next here. And now it's checking for errors, which will probably be some because I didn't really go through a fine-tooth comb of this. But basically, my campaign is ready to publish. So I can make this live, but I typically do it once through afterwards to make sure my strategy is right, my budgeting is right, and all that good stuff. So what did we look at as the main thing that we need to stay away from? Well, we definitely need to stay away from the search network, or the Google search partners and display network, because that isn't going to help improve your campaign's performance. That's one. Second, we want to make sure that we truly understand what we're going for. It may seem like we want to go for conversions right away, but there are instances, especially with newer accounts, where that may not be the best practice. So you'll definitely want to consult with your advertising team about what strategy will work best as far as Google's offered bidding strategies. So that's number 2. Make sure you select your bidding strategy correctly. Let's see. So checking your bidding strategies and making sure you understand them and apply them appropriately, that's something you definitely want to make sure of. Number 3, you want to make sure that you look inside your location options and make sure that you're targeting, I would recommend presence before presence or interest. Definitely do that. And yeah, those are like the big 3 I could think of, at least reminiscing on what we just talked about. But you want to stay away from also adding too many keywords of different meanings and different customers inside your campaign. I like to designate one type of campaign for one set of keywords and get as granular and specific as possible. That way you can allocate dollars to a specific audience and test better and get better results. That would be another item. Make sure that you look at the advanced search and exactly where you're targeting. That's something you want to look at. And then make sure you fill out as much ad asset as possible. So that would be very, very beneficial as well. Guys, that concludes on what to do and what not to do when setting up a Google Ads search campaign in 2024. That's arguably the most used type of campaign and the campaign you want to start with. No matter what people say, I wouldn't start with PMAX or Performance Max. I would not start with Demand Gen. Wouldn't start with shopping unless I'm doing something for e-commerce. If you are a local business, I would start with a search campaign. And then because it's the most bottom of funnel and with the highest intent audience, with no expansion on search partners or display network, And if you are in the e-commerce space, I would start with a standard shopping campaign. Guys, it's been good. David Feldman-Makrias. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to dive into any of my suggestions further, and I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks so much.